A mother and father in turmoil as their 8-year-old son Jamie has been missing for weeks. The man dominating this image was a stranger before Jamie's disappearance. He now sleeps in their bed and monitors police phone calls. This is the case of Jamie Lavis. The 5th of May 1997, Manchester, England. 8-year-old Jamie is the middle child of 5. He is small for his age at around 4 foot and wears clothing aged 5 to 6 years. He is a cheeky chappy and described as an energetic scamp. He is a little lad and he would often go and play in the streets or go into town by himself, as would a lot of other children at that time. It's a bank holiday, which means an extra day off school, so Jamie excitedly gets up, has breakfast and heads off, saying goodbye to his mum Karen and dad John. Karen and John aren't worried. Jamie always comes home for dinner. He's pretty streetwise for his age as well, and also he's petrified of the dark, so he would never stay out late. Early evening rolls around and mother Karen is plating up dinner. Jamie still isn't home, which is unusual, but her and John think that perhaps he's lost track of time or he's gone round of friends. It's still light outside, so they aren't particularly worried. Once evening fell, Karen and John begin to panic. Jamie should be home and there's no way he would stay out in the dark. They begin searching the streets for hours, looking around friends' houses, trying to discover where their little boy is. With no sign of him, the family decide to call the police, and the biggest investigation in Manchester begins since the case of the Moors murders. The police issue a press conference calling on anyone who might have seen Jamie that day.
If anybody out there knows where Jamie is or is giving him food, please just get in touch with the police. Everybody's waiting for him to come home.
Now, Jamie's described as being small for his age. He's about 4 foot tall and he wears clothes that are made to fit a 5 to 6 year old.
Several witnesses came forward, placing him on the 219 bus at around 10:30 a.m. It's believed that perhaps Jamie was heading into town to buy his mother a birthday present. After several witnesses placed Jamie on that bus, police then get a phone call from the bus driver himself, 28-year-old Darren Vickers. Darren Vickers is a local man who lives just a few streets away from the Lavis family. He said that Jamie brought a day saver ticket and sat on the bus all day driving around town looking out the window.
Any child that has a day saver ticket which you boarded with, it's up to them what they do with it. They paid for the ticket, they can do really what they're pleased with it.
He didn't see anything wrong with it as Jamie had a valid ticket. Days turn into weeks and Jamie is still missing. Darren, the bus driver, begins to get closer and closer to the Lavis family. As the last known person to see Jamie alive, he speaks to the press more and more.
Somebody out there's got to be sick keeping a child of that age. You know, it shouldn't be done. If you had any respect, you just hand him over to the nearest police station, just let the child go in, just let him come home. He's not in trouble, he's not nothing.
He's out searching for hours trying to find this little boy, saying that he feels guilty that he was the last person to see Jamie and he just wants to help. Jamie's family are very thankful and grateful for Darren's help. They often turn to him for emotional support. Darren even takes part in a reconstruction of Jamie's last movements. He is out searching so much, speaking to the press, doing interviews, that he either quits or he loses his job. Either way, he's not a bus driver anymore because he's dedicating so much time to try and find Jamie Lavis. Darren Vickers isn't a single man. He has a girlfriend at home who is pregnant and children. He has a family that he needs to financially support. So his obsession with this case, to the point where he loses his job, raises some serious red flags with the police. Police see Darren's actions as disturbing and worrying. They can't understand why a complete stranger is so obsessed with this case. This sentiment is kind of echoed through the community as well, but not with the Lavis family. The Lavis family are so grateful and thankful for Darren. They kind of welcome him in as a family member. They all become incredibly close to the point where Darren asks Karen and John, the mother and father, to be godparents to his unborn child. The Lavises looked to Darren as family. He would speak to the press when Karen and John just couldn't emotionally do it anymore. He would keep Jamie's name out there. They begin to trust Darren more than they trusted the police. So more witnesses come forward saying that they were a passenger on that bus, but they're telling a very different story to Darren. Jamie wasn't just sitting staring out the window. They were saying that Darren basically made that bus into a fairground ride for Jamie. He allowed Jamie to change the gears of the bus. One passenger said that at one point they were kind of stalling and stopping, and then they kind of mounted a curb where this little boy was kind of changing the gears. He was handing out tickets, dealing with money, running up and down the bus, having an absolute whale of a time. One passenger said to Jamie, "Oh, are you having a fun day out with your dad?" Jamie looked at her, rolled his eyes, looked towards Darren and said, "Oh no, he's my uncle." With this information, police begin to focus their attention on Darren, but this is really difficult as he's wormed his way into the family. So any information that the police give Karen and John gets back to Darren. So the police end up having to kind of exclude the family from knowing anything about the case, and they have to play their cards very close to their chest. They go and review CCTV footage from the bus depot and they clearly see Jamie there, but also Darren, and this is definitely a very friendly relationship. This isn't just a bus driver driving around a child who's just daydreaming out the window. There's some rapport there. Darren is ruffling Jamie's hair. They stand talking for several minutes. Also, Darren said that Jamie had a day saver ticket, but these tickets are only available to adults. Why was Darren lying? Did Jamie have a ticket at all? Darren Vickers had only been a bus driver for a few days, and when police look into his references for that job, they find that the majority of them are fake apart from one, and that person was a convicted paedophile. So the police bring Darren in for questioning, which absolutely horrifies the Lavis family. They cannot believe that Darren has anything to do with this. This man that has helped them through so much. They think police are pulling at straws. They've come to a dead end, and so they're accusing the last person to have seen Jamie alive. Darren keeps saying, "Why would I have come forward and identified myself and said that I've seen Jamie if I'd done something wrong? I was only trying to help, and now they're turning that information against me."
I've got nothing to do with the abduction of James Lavis, and I've got the backing of the Lavis family relations.
But he wasn't the first person to come forward. Several witnesses and passengers placed Jamie on that 219 bus. Darren probably only came forward because he knew he would be identified soon, and it would look less suspicious if he came forward rather than the police chase him. Police question him, but they don't have enough evidence to charge him, so they have to let him go. The Lavis family are waiting outside the station to welcome Darren out. They then subsequently host a party that evening to celebrate his release. Afterwards, the police search his home, and because of this, and because of the fact he is putting so much effort into finding Jamie, to being with the Lavis family pretty much all the time, he completely neglects his own family to the point where his pregnant girlfriend breaks up with him. So he moves in to the Lavis family home. Not just that, Karen and John offer him their master bedroom whilst they sleep on the settees downstairs. There are multiple sightings coming through to police of people who think they've seen Jamie. Every time police turn up to these locations, randomly Darren, John and Karen are already there. It turns out that Darren brought some kind of scanner that listens in to the police calls so that whenever there was a sighting, they could quickly get there, often before police. Police think this is a massive red flag. Why would anyone do this? But Karen and John just think that Darren is really trying to help them. So Darren has moved in with Karen and John. He has no job. either at this point. He spends most of his time listening in to police phone calls, talking to the press, anything to do with the Jamie Lavis case. In return for providing him with a place to sleep, Darren offers to look after their children. He would do school runs, take them to football practices, and he begins to form a relationship with Jamie's elder brother, 11-year-old John. He gives him lots of special attention. He buys him new shoes. He bought him a bike. He doesn't, however, seem that interested in the other siblings. Darren then gives another interview where his story changes again.
Well, I was coming back from Manchester and I said to him that I'm going to have to drop you back off now because this is my last run up. Jamie turned around and said to me, but my mum and dad's not in, I've got nowhere to go. Then I said to him, well, since you only live around the corner from me, I can take you back to the depot and drop you off when I go home.
He's saying that he now dropped Jamie off at the end of the day outside his grandmother's house. Listeners are confused and begin calling up, asking him further questions. Darren's fixation and obsession with constantly being kind of the face of the Jamie Lavis case, he is always talking to press, actually becomes his downfall. Two teenagers recognise him off the telly and phone police to say that this man led them into some woods. It was late at night and he pulled out a picture of Jamie Lavis, pointed to a certain area and said, "I think that's him." Darren began to walk off and the teenagers were so freaked out they just sprinted off, they fled. Also Darren, who was giving all this attention to 11-year-old John, once took him into the woods as well, offered him a cigarette and said to him, "This is where your brother is. If you don't behave, you'll end up here too." With this information, the police go back with those teenage boys and begin searching the woods, particularly the area that Darren Vickers pointed out to them. They end up finding some tarpaulin and underneath are some clothes. The clothes are the same ones that Jamie Lavis was last seen in. These are sent off for forensic analysis, and as they are unravelling them, a small jawbone falls out. The police continue searching the area and some remains are found, but many are not. They believe that some of Jamie's body was probably scavenged by animals, but also that Darren Vickers repeatedly returned to that site to not only relive his crime, but also to carry parts of the remaining body away so that it wasn't discovered. DNA confirmed that the remains were Jamie Lavis, and when his mother Karen was informed, she was in complete disbelief, saying, "No, it's not him." It took her months to come to terms with what happened to her baby boy and the fact that she never got to say goodbye. Not only did Karen and John have to come to terms with what happened to their 8-year-old son, they also had to wrap their heads around the fact that the man that they welcomed into their home slept in their beds, looked after their children, and helped them so much was the man that was responsible. He was also potentially grooming their other son, John, by giving him all this attention, buying him gifts. He would also take John on bus trips around town. John looked very similar to his brother Jamie. Whether Darren took John on these trips to groom him or to create a lot of false leads because people believed they'd seen Jamie on the bus is unclear, or perhaps his intention was both. When Darren is arrested and charged, he initially confesses to the crime and tells this story, which is completely untrue. He says that towards the end of his shift, they were driving down the road and Jamie began to mess about with the ticket machine. He told him to stop it, it's gonna break, and kind of lashed out to kind of stop him, but ended up hitting his head. Jamie fell backwards and smashed his head on one of the luggage racks. Darren then had to brake really hard as a car was coming from the right. This then forced Jamie forwards and he ended up hitting his head again and tumbling into the well near the exit door. Darren stopped the bus and was saying, "Jamie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" Jamie was lifeless, his eyes were closed, and it became very apparent that Jamie had died. Darren then said that he took Jamie, put him in the boot of his car, drove him back, placed him in his neighbour's house, which was empty at the time, encouraged his family, his girlfriend and his children to leave, go to a grandparent's house. With them gone, he then collected Jamie's body and took him to the woods where he disposed of him. So he's basically saying it was an accident, which is just completely untrue. It is difficult to know precisely how Jamie died because of the decomposition of the body. Not a lot of forensic analysis could be done. Darren initially says that he's going to plead guilty to spare the family a trial, but when it comes to it, he actually pleads not guilty, so a 7-week trial begins. So not only is he putting this family through a trial, he then starts accusing the father John of murdering Jamie, saying that this man had a violent streak. Jamie's sister is so horrified. She said her dad is a gentle giant, he would never do anything like that. Darren starts creating this story that Karen, the mother, came onto him and they began an affair, sleeping with each other 11 times. At this point, Karen is actually pregnant and she is forced to do a blood test to confirm that the father of her unborn baby is John. She vehemently denies any involvement with Darren Vickers, but where this story has been told, obviously it hits the press and people talk, and the upset it caused, even though it's completely untrue, to Karen and John, who have already gone through so much. There was graffiti over the town saying that Karen had slept with her son's murderer. Darren is just trying to control the narrative, as he has done from the very beginning, being so involved with the family, doing all those press conferences, interviews. He is constantly trying to control the narrative of this case, and he does it right up until the very end by accusing Jamie's own parents, John and Karen. He is found guilty and given a life sentence with a minimum term of 25 years. After he's sent to prison, he asks to speak to the lead investigator and admits that he raped, murdered and dismembered Jamie Lavis in the woods. He later withdrew this confession. Whilst in jail, he admitted to fellow inmates that he essayed Jamie on the bus as well, and that he used to hang around homes for disadvantaged children, hoping to proposition the minors, saying that these kids will do anything for money. Police believe that if Darren wasn't caught, he would have become a serial killer, molesting, murdering and dismembering children. He tried to appeal his case twice, but failed. Darren's entire family tried to concoct this story to create an alibi for him, but this was quickly dismissed, and the family were never actually charged with perjury or anything. I'm not sure how they got away with that. He was eligible for parole in 2023, but it was refused and he remains incarcerated. The Lavis family have struggled to come to terms with the loss of Jamie. He will never be forgotten and is sorely missed.